Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. We're taking a little look here, of course, Terra Classic, helping you understand best practice and big picture. And I do want to apologize, first off, for being MIA for 48 hours. It's not normally my thing. I'm not giving up on Terra Classic because we have a couple red days. It's mainly because I had a couple red days myself in my personal life, whereas I was walking my dog recently, and unfortunately, we got bum rushed by two pit bulls, and I lost the use of my right hand, at least for the immediate future. So we're going to be doing this all left-handed. It's going to be awesome. But need to say, if you're part of my community, just so you understand, my dog is okay. He recovered from his surgery. He's slow and steady, but that does win the race, right? And I'm as good as I can be considering the pain that I have in my hand, and I can't use it for work. All right. Again, this is what I do every day for work. This is my full-time day job is to help you become better traders. So I hope that you can learn something here today. So enough about that and me. What we want to look at, of course, is Terra Classic and see how much lower it's going to possibly go. I redrew out some Fibonacci retracement levels so you can generally understand what that looks like. We are still above the good indicators here. We're above 0.5, 0.618. Those are standard retracement levels for coins when the price action were to come back down. So again, hypothetically, we're in good shape there. We also got some nice moving averages. We'll look at that as well. So just to touch on this in the preface, traditional markets are down. So you got to keep in mind that even though Terra Classic, again, is still a fully functioning coin on its own, it's still reliant on Bitcoin's success or lack thereof. And Bitcoin is fairly reliant on traditional markets. So in that regard, we did have a gap down from NASDAQ as well as S&P 500. So those two green days, essentially, part of those profits are being taken. Right? That's very standard, very normal. But unfortunately, that does give us lower highs and lower lows on regular markets. And dollar index bounced off a key level support here, right in this range of about 110. Because again, the most recent high is effectively the bouncing point for the most recent low. That's why I teach my trading community to always place your stop loss just underneath the most recent high if the price is coming down, to ensure that you still stay in good shape. Because if you put it right at that exact level, you might get filled in that stop loss, and that wouldn't be appropriate, right? You want to be able to hit that bouncing point. So anyways, there's just some little things kind of factoring in. Again, dollar index up, traditional markets down. Most coins are still going to go down. There's a couple that aren't, but they are extraordinary circumstances. Okay. Again, Terra Classic has aligned itself fairly with Bitcoin recently, and you need to understand that. All right. So just fairly straightforward stuff. Let's go ahead and look at some of the TA and see what's going on. Some positive stuff here, though, is we're still over 50 on the RSI. That makes me happy to see that we are in fairly good shape. In other words, when you kind of look at the price action, you can see that if we're coming closer to test 50, that implies that the 50-day set moving average as well as the 20 are both going to be working as potential support levels. So furthermore, if we were to kind of just draw a conclusion, kind of just say the price comes down a little further, 0.5, which is a Fibonacci retracement level, is effectively right at about 27,600. That should be our bouncing point if the price continues lower. I'm not saying it's going to come down to 27.6. I'm just saying that if it were to, that should be a point in which we see a bounce or recovery, because 0.5 on Fibonacci is commonly a place in which the price will recover. Because right between 0.5 and 0.618 is that golden pocket, as you might have heard, and that is generally the place in which things will continue the other way. In other words, the price comes down, we should see a bounce. I love that the 50-day set moving average is working itself out in that center, right there at the 0.618 level. So another couple of days, that'll average itself out higher. Even if the price comes down lower, it'll bounce at that point. So I feel 27,600 would be a worst case scenario in the immediate future. You can also see, of course, a MACD divergence here forming. So this does imply that we could have further downside. All right. So generally speaking, the daily looks more positive than negative, but it's still there's still some situations here where we got to recognize that it's going to potentially go the opposite direction. It could continue lower a little further than we'd like it to. All right, so I would just say be prepared for that, but also keep in mind too, if Bitcoin recovers and continues to do well, then we're going to start seeing some green from Terra Classic eventually. So again, all in all, pretty decent. What's also interesting too, keep this in mind, is that Bitcoin did have 2 green days prior to today. So these 2 red days for Terra Classic were effectively this phenomenon that occurs with Bitcoin dominance. When Bitcoin dominance increases, altcoins sell off, and they effectively they take those profits. Basically, what's happening is the whales take the profits from these altcoins, and they put that into Bitcoin. Okay, it's this constant cycle of selling Bitcoin and buying alts, and reversing that process. That essentially is why we see these 2 red days. But again, mainly because we had this strong, let's see if I can pull it up here for you. We had this really strong breakout here when the price action broke through for that cup and handle pattern that I explained previously. In other words, we got this cup, we got the handle here, and it broke through, creating a massive short squeeze. So it makes sense as to why the profits are being taken and that the price action is coming down, because that's just a very standard procedure when it comes to trading. Okay, so just understand that what's happening now isn't like, it's not over with. It's just something that's occurring. That's a very normal thing in trading. Okay. So we're under 50 on the RSI. We can see that we're still diverging in the MACD. I do not love this little guy here. That tells us that we have potential for further downside as well, because it is it's gaining momentum again to the downside. So in essence, the 4-hour doesn't look great because of the simple fact that we have a handful of different factors. And obviously we lost that support level at 0.382. We've got a divergence on the MACD, and then we lost 50 or never recovered back up above 50 on the RSI. So you can kind of see how that worked as a resistance level and came back down. And again, that resistance on the RSI at 50 is concurrent with 31,200. So in that sense, that is essentially something that's causing the price action to, again, still retrace. So overall, the 4-hour doesn't look great, and to me, the 4-hour is a transitionary time frame. In other words, it takes what happens on the hourly and translates it into the daily. And if we have this happening on the 4-hour, just say a bearish type of divergence, then we should expect another, maybe a couple of red days for the daily, right? That's generally the idea. So I wouldn't expect Terra Classic to just bounce and recover unless we see a pretty nice, healthy green day from Bitcoin. Even though we do have that Bitcoin dominance issue, we're at these key level supports, and with Terra Classic, and we shouldn't experience further sell-off if Bitcoin were to shoot up. Okay, again, I think that Terra Classic is just the standard stuff's happening right now. We're seeing profits being taken because it got overextended, and that's super, super common. RSR had that happen as well, even though it's recovering today, and XRP previously. Again, any coin that is profitable in a bear market will be altered at one point or another when Bitcoin does well. Okay, so daily here, hourly. Let's take a look at the Ichimoku cloud and see here that we have full-on confirmation that a short position would be more viable than a long position for Terra Classic. I'm not telling you that you want to open a short right now, but it does imply that we have further downside potential and that we are on the wrong side of the tracks if you're trying to take a long position. And I know you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, it's low, I'm going to buy the dip. No, that's not how it works. Novice traders will do that just based on the simple fact that you might have gotten lucky sometimes. I can tell you, if you stick to that strategy and just try to buy the dip because it's overextended, you're going to effectively lose out. Again, it depends on your overall position size and what your overall duration of trade would look like. But if you are in a situation right now where you're considering a long, I just wouldn't recommend it because there's no confirmation it's going to turn around just yet. It will likely turn around in the next couple of days. That's my speculation based on what we've seen here so far. But right now, not looking fantastic. The cloud is just screaming bearish sentiment. Okay, so again, we got extreme bearish sentiment on the hourly. The 4-hour is telling us we have mostly bearish qualities, and the daily says that we have expectations of potential further downside to that 27,600 range. So you can do the math. Is waiting worth its while? At this point, I would say probably, yeah. But again, we got to recognize too that it is fairly overextended. So if we take a look at TD sequential, we can see that we're at a 9 and plus overtime. So there's strong potential that we could see a recovery. How strong, it's hard to say. But if you see here previously, we have hit 2 or 3. Actually, this is the third 9 we've hit in a row to the downside. And the more 9s you hit to either direction, the more likely it is to recover. Okay, so that could imply that we are potentially at a bouncing point here soon. All right, the last thing we want to kind of take a look at would be the 15-minute and see if we're outside those standard deviation lines, which we're seeing this with Bitcoin too, but this is a little bit more exaggerated, where the price action is well below that lower lead, which is basically just, what this is, VWAP, if you're not sure or familiar. I teach this in my trading university. CryptoCash.tech is a site if you're curious about that. But what you do here with the volume and average price is it tells us that this blue line right here at about 30,426, that's what the price action should be at based on the recent amount of volume. So it takes the volume, expresses it as a price. The price action is obviously much lower in the 29,000 range, and it's hitting that standard deviation. In other words, that deviation line is based on the last 24-hour period of volume. So the further outside those outliers you go, the more likely it is to come back and contract. It does not imply, though, it's going to just reverse itself, but it does tell us that we are overextended and we could actually see a little bit of a jump here. So if I was a day trader, I'd probably take a long position for a very small amount of profit with a potential leverage of 10 to 20x. Okay, again, we use 20x, somewhere in the range of 10 to 20x in my signals that I send out for my community, and just kind of give you perspective to kind of what that looks like. A lot of our folks in our community are doing really well. Again, they're using BitGet. I have a referral link for that. Make sure you check that out. They have bonus USDT that you can use. Phenomenal exchange. Okay, be sure to use the link in the description below if you're going to register, though, so you can have that bonus. But what I'm getting at here is that we're constantly taking these nice long positions and, of course, shorts. But we use and wait for confirmation. Some of the signals that I sent out here recently, we took a profit on a trade from 20 days ago, which is kind of nice. That was more of a swing trade. But more recently, we took some nice profits from the weekend, long positions we took from Bitcoin. So 80% from Bitcoin, and then Ethereum for our second target at 77%. That trade is still open. So again, a handful of different reasons as to why you probably want to consider joining if you haven't already. But for lack of better terms, it's a really awesome experience, and I'm super thankful to have such an amazing community. I mean, I tell you what, a lot of them are Terra Classic fanatics too, and I can say that super awesome, endearing, amazing people. We're all actually learning and growing together too, bouncing ideas off each other. We have a lot of different threads in our Discord group, and it's just really, really awesome. So be sure to check that out if you would benefit from a dynamic environment, right? And obviously make sure you go ahead and partner with BitGet, because they are a phenomenal exchange, absolutely amazing level 2 data, and they just have such a great platform that you will not be disappointed, I guess is the right word for it. Anyways, if you register before November 30th, you can transfer or get some bonus USDT by just transferring and using the exchange. Again, you have to use the exchange to be able to benefit from that, but I can tell you that once you start using it, you'll be thinking to yourself, well, where was this a year or two ago? Even though they've been around for quite a while. Anyways, something to check out. So here's a summary for Terra Classic. We've extracted a lot of information here. Daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, 15 minute. All of which, minus the very small time frame of 15 minute, are telling us that we have potential for further downside. So if you're going to take a long position to the upside, for example, it might be advantageous to consider waiting. That would be my strategy. If you're day trading, obviously, consider where we're at right now, with standard deviation, overextension to the downside. Likelihood of an immediate drop in the immediate future is fairly low, but a slow bleed out over the next couple of days is still probable. Okay. Once again, right there at 0.5, that 27,600 is the point in which I'm looking at. If we were to come down that low, that would be a considerable entry target. Okay. That's me personally. You do what works with your risk tolerance, because again, the key to being a good trader isn't to listen to somebody else and to do what they do. It's to develop your own strategy, but more importantly, to work within your risk tolerance. How much are you willing to leverage? How much are you willing to use per trade? I always recommend small position sizing and a moderate amount of leverage. 10, 20x is probably more appropriate. Anything over that, you're just risking a lot for. Again, you still get a good return. Don't get it wrong, and you'll get lucky sometimes. But anything crazier than 20x, in my personal opinion, it's just not appropriate. It's too large of a risk and doesn't work well for me. You find what works well for you. All right, enough education there. Sorry, I just love teaching people how to trade, right? And I hope that you can see the benefit there in that sense, and you find benefit. Obviously, become part of a community if you want that. If not, keep watching the videos, learn as much as you can to do this yourself. Very realistic. Been doing this for a very long time, and I can assure you that trading is a healthy, comfortable lifestyle, if you exclude the capital gains that the federal government likes to take. Anyways, the conversation for another day. I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll look forward to seeing y'all in the next video. Thanks again for your time and patience. We'll see you soon.